Does America need patriotism? Does it matter? Hi, I'm Rex Rogers, and this is episode number 272 of Discerning What is Best, a podcast applying unchanging biblical principles in a rapidly changing world and a Christian worldview to current issues in everyday life. Patriotism at its best is about ideals, time-tested values and verities that we know result in protecting and liberating citizens. America is uniquely blessed by the exceptional ideals and system of government the Founding Fathers established. All individuals are created equal. The Creator endowed us with life, liberty, and the ability to pursue happiness. The Founders then set up a system of government that evidenced they understood human nature. That is, that human beings can get sidetracked by their own passion. So we got government with separation of powers and checks and balances. And the Founders acknowledged that we seek a more perfect union, a goal that recognizes we are not perfect but perfecting, opens us to growth and change, is forever aspirational and optimistic. Since I was a young professor in the 1980s, I've wanted to write a book about American patriotism. Finally, by the grace of God, I was able to do so this past winter and spring. This book, We Hold These Truths, Responsible Christian Patriotism, was released July 6, 2026, and is now available in print and ebook format on Amazon, eBay, Barnes & Noble, and more. There's nothing wrong with appreciating America's topography, as in the song, America the Beautiful. But patriotism is about more than landscape. Patriotism is a sense of love, loyalty, gratitude, and devotion toward one's country and its ideals, often accompanied by a willingness to support and defend the homeland. Patriotism and nationalism are not the same. Patriotism focuses upon love of a country's ideals, culture, people, geography, and generally encourages gratitude. Nationalism can involve these attachments, but typically takes them to the next level. For example, considers the nation superior to others, and can also lapse into chauvinism or militarism. One concern I have about current politics is that Washington, D.C. seems to focus more on national position and power rather than on the principles of freedom that did indeed make us great. I believe there are many patriotic people in this country. We saw considerable patriotism during the recent World Cup, evidenced not only by Americans, but by people from all countries engaged in the tournament. It was good and enjoyable to see. But there are also many in America who no longer like, much less appreciate their own homeland, its government, or its politics. They protest loudly that they are victims of an unfriendly, rigged capitalist system, even as they parade around high-end university campuses carrying cell phones, wearing designer clothing, driving expensive cars, and otherwise demonstrating that they enjoy a bona fide level of privilege that they accuse strawman oppressors of wielding against them. American culture is sadly suffering an identity crisis. We no longer know who we are, and we aren't sure we can trust any source to inform us. A growing segment of the citizenry are not simply protesting given political initiatives, but rejecting the nation's founding ideals. They argue America was not established by people seeking freedom, particularly religious freedom, but by slaveholders seeking to perpetuate their wealth and position. America was not, they say, founded in 1776, but in 1619, when they say the first enslaved person came to these shores. Now, my wife was speaking with one of our 20-something grandchildren recently, and he said, well, Grandma, you have to realize that many in my generation think that 9/11 was caused by the CIA and the American government. Really? What happened to Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, terrorism, and radical Islamism? It's disheartening to see American college students marching in support of not just the people of Gaza, i.e. Palestinians, but in open support of Hamas, the vicious murdering perpetrators of 10/7. It is mind-blowing to see Americans carrying signs saying, "Queers for Palestine." Don't they have any self-awareness, factual information, or even common sense? Don't they know that the Islamist ideology motivating Hamas would lead them to kill the so-called sexually liberated outright? Critics have pointed out that this kind of sign is as illogical as a placard saying chickens for KFC. So back to our identity crisis. Juxtaposed to America's founding ideals, belief in God, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, equality of opportunity, respect for life, and the rest of what comprises the American dream: personal responsibility, upward mobility, merit, private property, entrepreneurship, family, rule of law, limited government. Alongside these traditional and admirable values is now something new. Well, not really new. Newly rehashed, but actually old, revived political views that are undermining the American system. This new for this moment, but old retread ideas and values are vigorously vying for a complete displacement of all that has made this country free and flourishing. Among the values being propagated are an anti-God mentality, including an openly hostile attitude toward a biblical worldview and the Christian faith, a globalist view that diminishes and dismisses American national concerns, a celebration of rebellion in the name of absolute freedom, a repression of freedom of speech, which we see in so-called political correctness, a failed and unworkable socialist outlook upon the economy, a disavowal of law and order, including calls for abolishing police and prisons, and a perpetuation of tribal and identity politics, sacrificing unity in the interest of absolutizing diversity. Now, all this is bad enough, but there's more. A confused segment of the American population is intentionally sowing chaos, madness, racism ad nauseum, and a culture of fear, because they believe these unsettling conditions will offer them a path to power. Many on what's called the left, progressives, democratic socialists, communists, sincerely believe and actively promote an amoral nihilism about life itself. They embrace abortion, of course, and then a weird pro-criminal view that argues for no sentencing, no bail, catch and release, no one held accountable. They preach a cynical, angst-ridden, angry interpretation of everything they touch, including America itself. Now, how is this possible? Well, if you don't believe in God, you have no hope. And if you have no hope, then everything degenerates rapidly from there. Our challenge for the next 250 years is to develop our ability to be worthy citizens of a worthy nation. We exalt God, who gives us truth, life, and liberty. We don't hate, we help. We defend good and, as necessary, fight evil, but we always strive for peace. We cultivate the character necessary for self-government. We must reaffirm our founding ideals as never before. We hold these truths. We develop a patriotism that is deeper than national identity, deeper than nationalism, because patriotism that is about pride and power and partisanship is not enough. Patriotism dies as it is politicized. The flourishing of America after 250 will depend more on citizen virtue than on dynamic political leaders and political movements that come and go. Liberty requires character. Christians must commit to the Great Commission, to discipleship, and to building the character of the citizenry, spending more resources on religion than politics. The promise of America is more about possibility than perfection. That possibility remains real, provided its foundational principles remain respected and realized. I still believe in the timeless ideals upon which the American experiment was founded. I believe because I've seen the truth and power of these ideas, resulting in the freest and most abundantly productive society in history. The best stewardship of a city on a hill celebrates faith, family, and freedom, and offers a compelling moral vision to a people hungry to progress, if no longer through the wilderness, then through time and space. For as long as we hold these truths, the United States of America will offer Americans and the world a beacon of freedom and peace. Well, we'll see you again soon. This podcast is about discerning what is best. If you find this thought-provoking and helpful, follow us on your favorite podcast platform. And for more Christian commentary, see my website, REXM as in Martin, that's rexmrogers.com, or check my YouTube channel at Dr. Rex Rogers. And remember, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm.